What's happening, sports rehab experts? Today we're going to be talking about how you should be sitting to avoid low back pain, especially if you are currently experiencing low back pain. Many people have sensitivity in that seated position. This video is for you so you can be more comfortable in that seated posture. Now we're going to be talking about two concepts. One is the Patrick Ewing effect, and the other is the three bears analogy. So we're going to get into both of those in just a moment, but before we get into them, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you get any future videos. Share it out with any friends that you might find these tips useful for. We create this content on a weekly basis, so make sure you subscribe to that channel to, again, get those alerts when new videos are coming your way. Now, before we get into how to sit in those two, the Patrick Ewing effect and the three bears analogy, I want to first preface this whole conversation with that there is zero perfect postures that you can achieve while sitting. So stop trying to strive for the perfect posture in the seated position. There is no perfect posture. The best posture is the next posture. But if you're in pain currently, that limits the menu of postures you can choose from, and usually just gives you a couple options that are useful, that allow you to sit comfortably during that period of time. But again, a lot of times sitting in general isn't very advantageous to get yourself out of a low back or a hip injury for that matter. Changing into a variety of different postures and getting out of that seated position and get the body moving is a lot more sustainable long-term solution for you. So if you have access to one of those desks that go up and down where you can sit and stand and transition as you want, that's going to be one of the best options for you long-term. But you do not need to spend a ton of money on a very high-end chair. That's why I'm sitting on this chair, actually, is you don't need a very high-end chair. Certainly a comfortable chair will make it useful, especially if you're in pain right now. It may make you feel a little bit more comfortable, but it's not going to help you avoid back pain to begin with. You probably need to do something fitness, movement related to make yourself feel a little bit better so you do not have pain with sitting, or you can be more comfortable in sitting for a longer period of time. Now that we've cleared that up, two suggestions that you can do to make sitting a little bit more comfortable, especially if you're currently experiencing pain. So the first one is the Patrick Ewing effect. Patrick Ewing, if you're unfamiliar with him, is a 7-foot tall center that used to play basketball. He has since retired, but and really this holds true for any center that is really tall, and you go see them sit on the bench after playing. These chairs that they go sit on are, about the right height for an average individual who might be, like 5'10", 5'11". But this individual's 7 foot tall, so he looks really goofy sitting on a chair that's meant for someone who is 5'10", 5'11". So the first suggestion is finding a chair that is, to a certain extent, adjustable to your particular height. So look how height of seat can bias your seated position. So right now I have this seat set up on the lowest height possible. So hips are at level with the knees or maybe slightly below. And you can see how that kind of biases me to this rounded position, especially if you don't have a backrest. It biases you into this rounded position, which again, usually is a little bit more comfortable for someone who is currently in back pain. So it's gonna be a little bit more uncomfortable. Whereas if we get a higher seat, that you can see how it's just much more natural for me to sit up tall. My feet are still on the ground, the hips are slightly above knee height, and it's just a lot easier, more energy economical for the individual to sit up tall. And it actually seems kind of awkward to slouch backwards. So it's very easy to sit up tall when you have a hip that is slightly higher than your knee and your feet are flat on the ground. The more you sink down into this low position, which is very similar to like a bucket chair in a car where you just, you kind of sit down low, you slouch back, your knees are up high, this puts you in a slouch position. This is also why a very cushiony couch is generally not comfortable for people who are experiencing back pain either, is because you tend to slouch and sink down into that cushion. And especially if you're not right up against the backrest or you have no backrest, there's nothing supporting you here and you're just kind of slouching into it and you're sitting in that position possibly for hours on end. Now again, one of the best solutions is move out of that position, start to stand, transition in and out of standing, go for a little bit of a walk, break your day up a little bit more. But again, life happens, you gotta sit sometimes for an extended period of time. So to do that, again, if you get a chair that is a little bit more taller, got the hip a little bit above the knee, you're going to be a lot more comfortable to sit for a longer period of time because it's just going to be more natural for you to sit upright like this. Now, ideally, we have something with a backrest. So that's why I have this chair right here. Now, again, nothing fancy or sexy about this chair, but this is where the three bears analogy comes into play. We don't want something that is too hard. We don't want something that's too soft. We need something that's just kind of in the middle, because the purpose of the chair is to give as much surface contact area to your rear and to your back as possible to make your body feel as comfortable as possible. So when you sit with a chair with a backing, you want to sit your butt all the way to the back end and then almost slide down. So you have all this surface area at the rear and at the back in contact with the chair, fully supported, and the feet are flat on the ground. And then ideally, again, the height of the chair is slightly higher than your knees. So again, you're up out of that position a little bit. Now, again, depending on the chair and your height and if the chair is adjustable or not, you know, sometimes that's not necessarily feasible for you if the chair has a fixed height like this one. But if the chair is adjustable, again, you want to rise that chair up, give yourself the most advantageous position possible to get comfortable in that seated position, and then sit your butt all the way into the back of that chair, and then get something that's not too overly hard, because that'll be uncomfortable simply due to the pressure. But then you want something that isn't so soft that it feels like you just sink down into it and then you start slouching again. You want something that just gives you firm cushion, sit all the way in the back, and your hips are slightly higher than knee height. So those are your tips. If you found that useful, be sure again to like, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who you might help them out or is currently dealing with back pain. Again, these tips are to help you sit in a position that's a little bit more comfortable if you experience back pain. If you're not experiencing back pain, there is no right or wrong position to sit. The next best posture is, or the best posture is the next posture. So you just want to remember to keep yourself moving and not remain stagnant. But you can still take these advices, because likely there's going to be one position that is more comfortable for you than another. Usually the tips that I just suggested to you here are the positions that are most comfortable for an individual. So play around with it a little bit, see if you like those positions, see if you like those tips, and comment below what you think.